Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. Can you hear me in the back? All right. Clap one time if you can hear me. So all of you must spend a lot of time with children. That's how you get their attention. It's great to have all of you with us. I'm Reverend Daniel Christian, and I am the minister of this church, of the First Presbyterian Church of Oakland. And we have a rich history in our community. We've been here since 1853. So it's a real privilege for us to welcome all of you to our sanctuary and to create, a civic dialogue. We'd like to thank the sponsors of tonight's debate, and we'd like to thank the candidates when they get here for them participating in tonight's debate, and again to thank all of you for coming out on a Wednesday night and being part of this civic forum. And we want to just make sure that you feel welcome and comfortable. There's some bathrooms that are in the back in the narthex, so feel free to use those when you need, and just make yourself comfortable. Again, we are very honored here to welcome you to the First Presbyterian Church of Oakland. Again, I'm Reverend Daniel Christian. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Ernest Brown, co-executive and board member of East Bay for Everyone. First, I want to begin by thanking Reverend Christensen for welcoming us into this place. Oh, sorry, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now in the back? Thank you, I appreciate that. I'll start over. Good evening. My name is Ernest Brown, and I'm a board member and co-executive of East Bay for Everyone, one of the hosts of tonight's event. I want to thank my co-host, the Northgate Neighborhood Association, and TechEquity Collaborative. A little bit about TechEquity Collaborative. They're a movement trying to galvanize tech workers to be solutions to the problems the Bay Area faces. So that means around issues such as housing and workforce development, they're trying to mobilize tech workers and the firms they work for to be part of the solution. If you're a tech worker and you're interested, please find the people in the Tech Equity t-shirts. They'll be here all night. East Bay for Everyone, for those of you who do not know, is a grassroots movement trying to galvanize members of the community around solutions to problems such as building more housing, improving tenant protections, and increasing the transportation infrastructure that connects our communities. So if that's something you're passionate about, please come talk to me or the gentleman here in the gray and black shirt. Tonight's forum, we're going to hear about a lot of things from our mayoral candidates, but we're particularly interested from my point of view about what are we going to do around the housing crisis we face, not just the immediate crisis, but also the long-term legacy of segregation and displacement we've seen across our country. As I'm excited to see the solutions they have posed for those problems. And with that, I want to bring up Nate Moon, one of my fellow organizers, to introduce our moderator.
I think I need a stool, Ernest. Ernest is so much taller than me. Good evening, everybody, and hello. My name is Nathan Moon, and on behalf of Northgate Neighbors, our neighborhood community group, welcome to Northgate. Your clean, safe, vibrant, and beautiful gateway to downtown. Northgate Neighbors has an awesome calendar of events, barbecues, street murals, and this. And tonight wouldn't have happened without our amazing support of our whole community. We've had people pouring out from the community, just showing up and helping out. Thank you, everyone. If you guys want to be on the mailing list, just grab me afterwards and I can give you a card. Northgate Neighbors isn't the only group that's close to my heart. I'm also here tonight joined by members of Strawberry Creek Friends meeting on MLK. Hey guys. And you can check us out at strawberrycreekfriends.org. Most of you guys know us as Quakers, but we're also known as Friends of the Truth. And that's why you're invited here tonight. Because we're going to talk about what's true about Oakland today and what we want to be true about Oakland during the next 4 years. And on that note, I want to introduce you to somebody who I really, really admire. She's also spent her life uncovering the truth, and she's had the courage to shed light on some of our nation's most troubling history. As an anchor at KPIX, you guys probably remember her incredible work with Japanese internment has really shifted the American narrative so that now my children know about that shameful time in our history. We're really, really lucky tonight to have as our moderator, Wendy Tokuda. Wendy, welcome.
And I apologize. So there were some papers flying out, and when you were checking in, a code of conduct for tonight's event. I'm just going to reiterate some of the key points and also make a note about why we've got 4 and not 10 people on stage. So from just picking some key points from the TechEquity Code of Conduct, they ask that we please be kind and courteous to each other. We do not tolerate personal attacks, nastiness, meanness, or rudeness, and we want this to be a place where people are free to fully express their ideas. We encourage questions. We don't assume everyone has the same context and expect our spaces to be a place for learning. So we hope that we all, candidates included, conduct ourselves with that mentality throughout tonight's event. And just to note on why the candidates who are on the stage, we used the campaign finance filings from June 30th to see which campaigns were making a concerted effort to try to reach the Oakland voters by having a broad base of support. So we looked at campaign finance, but not the amount of money raised, the number of donors raised. So campaigns that are seeking a small dollar grassroots organization will be presented on the stage. Those that did not demonstrate that they were trying to raise the funds to support a campaign here in Oakland are not mentioned on stage. So just want to make sure we all had that context. And with that, I'll turn it over to Wendy.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming tonight to find out more about the candidates running for mayor of this wonderful city we live in. The candidates have already drawn straws to determine the seating order, which will also be the questioning order. We have 5 pre-selected questions with some follow-up, and we will also try to get to some questions that we have elicited from the audience as well. So without further ado, I am going to introduce the 4 candidates here we will be hearing from, beginning with Marchon Tatmon. Marchon, here we are. Housing professional, Marchon Tatmon. Marchon, right over here. Next, Pamela Price, civil rights attorney. Pamela? Right next to Marchon. Sitting in the next chair, the incumbent, Mayor Libby Schaaf. Mayor? And last but definitely not least, we have the executive director of the Justice Teams Network, and that would be Kat Brooks. Kat? Okay, candidates, you'll see right up here, we put them here so that you can see the clock, which we have, and we also have a fine card holder, one of Nate Moon's daughters. We're going to start out with 2 minutes for each of you for opening statements. You'll get a 1-minute card to let you know half your time is gone, and then also a 10-second card. And then a card comes up that says, time's up. Okay, so Marchon, we begin with you. And do you have the mics there? You guys have, there should be 2 mics, and we're all going to have to share. I think there should be 2 mics there or not. Okay, how about the mics? Because that will make it so much easier to hear. Here we are.
We have one
Wonderful.
Mic. We'll just pass
we have 1 mic. Okay, well, that actually makes it easier.
Good evening, Oakland. Can we hear?
Can you hear in the back? Oh, here's the other mic.
Testing, you hear me now? Good evening, Oakland. My name is Marchon Tatmon. Good evening, ladies. I'm appreciative I can have this opportunity to win your vote. I'm an Oakland native, born and raised, grew up on 82nd and Plymouth Street. I went through all Oakland public schooling, and I graduated from Castlemont High School. There's no surprise and there's no shock. I'm one of the youngest persons in the race, but I like to say a little bit of Oakland history. 1852, Horace Carpentier, first mayor of Oakland, was only 29 years old. So I went through schooling. I had the opportunity to get outside of Oakland to the University of Tulsa, in which I received a football scholarship, graduated with a degree in political science, a minor in psychology. I was in the finance industry, and I made the switch, and I finished my master's in public administration. I'm currently finishing up my doctorate right now, public administration and policy. I'm a visionary. My vision is to make Oakland safe and prosperous for all. Under my watch, we have tackled the homeless crisis, in which I've been housing the homeless for the past 2.5 years. I housed over 100+ families throughout the city of Oakland and in San Leandro. I also have a vision to make economic development more equitable for everybody in the city of Oakland. And being an Oakland native, we had to tackle violent crime. Under my watch, I will do all of the above to make Oakland a better place for everyone.
Pamela Price.
All right, good evening. My name is Pamela Price. I'm a civil rights lawyer. I came to Oakland more than 40 years ago to go to law school. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a survivor of the Ohio juvenile justice and foster care systems. I got arrested when I was 13 years old and tracked into the juvenile justice and the foster care systems, and I survived because 3 women kept their hands on me: Amy Jenkins, Lorena O'Donnell, and Alice Aaron. The thing that they taught me was get my education, because that's the one thing that nobody can take from you. And so I listened to them and got that message, and from my birth mom, who was a teacher for 35 years, I only made it from the streets of Cincinnati to Yale College by the grace of God. I got a great education at Yale and then UC Berkeley Law School. I'm running for Oakland mayor because Oakland is at a crossroads. The mayor has tremendous influence over how we respond to our homelessness crisis and provide affordable housing, how we treat those who suffer from mental illness or addictions, whether we hold bad cops accountable for bad acts. These are challenging times in Oakland. It's a time of challenge, and that brings opportunity. As the mayor, it would be my obligation and my honor to hold public officials accountable in the way that I've been able to do as a civil rights lawyer for almost 27 years, representing everyday people fighting for justice. Oakland has ranked choice voting, and I'm happy to talk about that. I hope that we will discuss that. You have 3 votes, and it's very important in this election that you use all 3 votes on 3 different people. I want to be your number 1 choice, and if I'm not your number 1, make me your number 2 and your number 3. In any event, join us as we reach for fair housing, equity, and results for Oakland. Thank you for coming tonight.
And now the incumbent mayor, Libby Schaaf.
Good evening. I'm Libby Schaaf. I am also born and raised in Oakland. I'm a graduate of Skyline High School, and I have been so proud to be your mayor for the last 4 years. When we work together, we can actually make tangible progress on some of Oakland's most pressing problems, like implementing the successful ceasefire program that has helped reduce gun violence in this city by 52%. Finally, building desperately needed housing. And finally, starting to pave those roads. But there's nothing I'm more proud of than how we've come together to ensure that every child in this city has the opportunity to graduate not just from high school, but also from a 4-year college, a 2-year college, or a trade school through the Oakland Promise. Already in its first year, it has produced more than double-digit increases in college enrollment for our African American and Latino students. And because I was raised in this community, by this community, with Oakland values, I also am proud when we stood up to Donald Trump when he came for people in our community. I will never back down from this community or Oakland's values. You have seen me stand up for Oakland That is something that I will continue to do as we work together for more progress over these next 4 years together. Thank you.
And next, candidate Kat Brooks.
Well, hello, Oakland. Y'all look beautiful. We are living in dire conditions. Our babies are dying in these streets. There are thousands of more people sleeping in them, and thousands more being pushed out of their city. My name is Kat Brooks. I'm an executive director. I'm a lifelong community organizer. I'm an artist. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. And I am someone who loves this community deeply. I love our culture and legacy. I love our resilience and resistance. I love our grit and our grind. And I'm deeply saddened because I'm watching all of those things slip away from our fingertips. The city recently released an equity indicators report. And what that report demonstrated is that across the board, we are failing to provide equitable opportunities for all Oaklanders. That is most grossly evidenced in the 6,000 people that are sleeping in our streets every single night. I am running for them. I'm running for Sarah, a young, unhoused Black woman who held me and begged me to never forget who I am fighting for. I'm running for my daughter and her friends who, though they are being raised in this city, in a few short years will no longer be able to live here. I'm running for our teachers who are the lowest paid in Alameda County. I'm running for the artists and seniors who are being pushed out of our town. We are supposed to be the most progressive city in the country, and we are failing miserably at living up to that brand. Progress is good, development is great, but it has to happen in a way that works for everyone. We need 21st century common sense solutions that bring us together as one Oakland across race, class, gender, and creed, and build a government that is rooted in justice, equity, and humanity. Thank you.
We're going to move now into the questions that have been pre-selected, and in some cases there is a follow-up question to them. And the first question has to do with something that all 4 candidates have indicated is a very high priority for them, and that is homelessness. So we all know that it's important to all 4 of you. What I would like to ask you is specifically, as specifically as you can tell us, what would you do to solve this growing issue? And we will begin the questions on this round with Marchon Tatmon.
Homelessness, an issue that's plagued this city for the past 4 years. In the past 2.5 years, I've been tirelessly housing the homeless for the nonprofit I work for. In order to tackle this serious crisis, this humanitarian issue, we have to allocate more money to the budget. I believe when I took a look at the budget, we only allocated $11 million towards homelessness. Excuse me if that number is off, so don't quote me, but it's somewhere in that range. I will make sure that we utilize a real estate transfer tax and get some of these developers out here to foot some of this cost of living in which it rose under their watch. I would make sure that we utilize the vacant parcel tax in which we can generate another $20 million to handle this. And then I will build affordable housing at all costs. Thank you.
And actually, Marchon, you got to part of my follow-up question in your answer, but we're going to give you 30 seconds to talk more about where this money would come from, because everyone agrees we need more money. Where are we going to get it?
We need to declare a state of emergency, and we need to get emergency funding from the state to deal with this issue that's been plaguing a lot of our seniors, a lot of our long-term residents. And like I alluded to earlier, we need to utilize the transfer tax, the real estate transfer tax. in which we're generating over $100 million out there per year, but yet funds is not being directed to the right places they need to go. We need to utilize the parcel tax as well, the vacant property parcel tax.
Thank you very much, Marchon. Moving on to Pamela Price. What specifically would you do to solve this problem?
Our Oakland City Council passed a resolution 87129 in April, I believe, of this year, directing the city administration to, one, cooperate with the faith-based organizations that have offered to open up their facilities, both in terms of their buildings as well as their lots, vacant lots, to allow some of the unhoused people to go there. I would enforce and implement that. The City Council also passed a resolution authorizing $2.2 million for anti-displacement efforts. The city lost that money, so I would make sure that that money is actually being distributed to the nonprofits so that they can do the outreach that's necessary to stop the anti-displacement. So there is money available, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but there are solutions available. The Dellums Institute has presented a number of solutions. We have a plethora of nonprofits in this city that have provided solutions to the mayor's office and to the city administration that have been ignored.
And just in all fairness, because we gave Marchon a minute and a half, let me give you another 30 seconds to give us a little bit more detail on where the money would come from.
Sure. There's
to
not
do what you want to do.
What I have learned is that there's not a shortage of funds, there's a shortage of political will, okay? The City Council, as I mentioned, allocated $2.2 million for anti-displacement efforts that was lost by this administration. The county, the state, is about to release $50 million for homelessness to counties and cities, of which Oakland is one of the 11 jurisdictions that is eligible for that money. The county also has additional funds. We also have money within our budget that could be reallocated to address the humanitarian crisis that we face.
Mayor Schaaf.
There are 4 things that we're doing to address homelessness. First, the emergency triage of getting people off of the streets and into safety and services. And yes, I am proud of one of the innovative things that we have done with our Tough Shed cabin communities to give people the dignity and security of going to sleep at night behind a locked door where only they have the key, with their partners, their pets, and their possessions, with services on site, and this is a temporary emergency triage. Second, we are expanding our rapid rehousing program that has been so successful, with a second building that should be open by the end of this year. Third, more permanent, affordable, supportive housing. That is critical, and yes, we came together to pass 2 affordable housing bonds. We have to do more. And finally, preventing homelessness to begin with. We need dedicated governmental funds that give short-term rental assistance, paying people's utilities, helping them with legal expenses to keep them from losing the housing they are in.
Mayor,
that's what we need to do.
Let me jump in for a second and give you another 30 seconds to talk about the money for all of these things. Where are you going to get more money because the problem's growing?
Well, I have involved in campaigning for the 2 measures that Mr. Tatmon talked about. We are increasing our transfer tax. We are creating a vacant parcel tax. I hope you all vote for those. What you said was simply untrue, that we have allocated the $2.2 million, and in fact, I have gone out to the philanthropic community to raise even more in private dollars, as well was part of the mayor's effort to, for the first time ever, get a direct allocation from the state. But we need regional sources of funding, and that can be a regional parcel tax, gross receipts tax. There are a lot of opportunities if we actually pull the entire Bay Area into their responsibility to address this crisis.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Kat Brooks, 1 minute, and then 30 seconds more, we'll talk about the funding.
The UN called what is happening to our unhoused people in the city of Oakland systemic cruelty. I call it criminal. Like the mayor, I have been inside the camps and seen the horrific conditions that our community members, our brothers and sisters are living in. Unlike the mayor, I had a crisis of consciousness about it. And would I to have the power of the mayor's office, I would immediately shelter all of our unsheltered people. We can do this in the empty city-owned buildings that we have that we can partition and put showers and toilets in. We can do this by partnering with the Oakland Unified School District in abandoned schools where there are bathrooms and showers. And we can use some of our public lands, the majority of our public lands, to build low-cost workforce, no-cost housing with dignity, not chemically treated tool sheds that are going to create lifelong health problems for our unhoused community members, where people can begin to live with dignity. We also need to prevent homelessness in the first place. We need to repeal Costa-Hawkins, yes, on Proposition 10, and create the most progressive rent control policy in the state.
Can you talk a little bit about where the money would come from? 30 seconds.
Yes, so I agree with Marchon, Pamela, and the mayor about the parcel tax, the real estate transfers tax. We do need a gross sales receipts tax on our largest businesses. We can increase it by just $1 for each business, bringing millions into our communities. We need to grow our budget, period. We need to be bringing businesses with union values into our community to increase living wage jobs and increase our money. And we need to audit every single city department we have, including the police department. We need to get a hold of that $30 million of unauthorized overtime. It's not just them, it's all of our city departments. There's millions there for Oaklanders to use for Oakland valued things.
Okay. To begin the next round of questions, let's hand the mic down to Pamela Price. And the next question has to do with, and again, specifics, but how would you improve the relationship between police and the community? And that'll be 1 minute. 1 minute for the main question. If we have a follow-up, it's 30 seconds.
We all know that our community is in crisis in terms of the police relationship because there's a lack of accountability. So number one, I would insist and begin to hold officers accountable for bad acts. I would start by reforming internally, changing the climate within, the culture within the department so that it's not that we reward people who cover things up, but that we actually incentivize officers to tell us when things are wrong and help us to fix them. One of the things that we have is the relationship and the predatory role that officers play in communities of color. And we know that in the Stanford study, they found that the racial disparities varied dramatically in everything from language and tone to arrest and stops. And so we have to fight that and retrain our officers not to solely focus on African American children and African American people.
A follow-up, how about the role of restorative justice? Would you employ that?
Yes, I mean, I think with police officers, it's a challenge to put them in a situation where there's restorative justice when an officer of the law has in fact violated the public trust and violated the basic standards that officers are expected to follow. I don't see that there's a role for restorative justice
But
there.
out in the community with other people.
Oh, okay.
Regular
Yes.
citizens, I'm sorry.
That's okay, yes. Certainly within the community with other people, I fully support the principles of restorative justice. And I think that it's fundamentally a way for us to transform the way that our community interacts within ourselves. And that makes our community safer and stronger when we have restorative justice organizations, which in fact are in play in the Bay Area and available to us to create the kind of neighborhood courts that would relieve us of the need to have policing everywhere.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Mayor Libby Schaaf. What further steps would you take to improve the relationships between police and communities?
Holding officers accountable who do not belong in this profession is clearly the first and most important step. But there are so many other things to be gained by examining the baked-in oppression and racial bias that is in policing practices. That is the work that has to continue to be done, whether that is changing our stop policies, our handcuffing policies, our chase policies. We know that those types of oppressive policies have tremendous impact on that relationship. And finally, I have been proud to really push more recruiting from within our Oakland public schools to ensure that people who have come up in this community are the first people that we are encouraging to take on the mantle of officers. Finally, we have to coordinate with non-police caretakers and peacemakers. That is an important part of our public safety equation.
Are you, what about the role of restorative justice? Would you like to see that employed more?
I am a huge fan of restorative justice. I have sat in circles with hundreds of Oakland youth through Our Joy, Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth. They have put on healing circles for us at moments when this city has needed it, most recently following the horrific murder of Nia Wilson. Vanya Davis and Taisha Bankhead have served on every committee, our safety impact table, to lead the work when we talk about what a comprehensive community safety plan looks like. Restorative justice has been leading that conversation.
Thank you. Kat Brooks, what would you do to improve relations with the police?
The first thing that we need to do is tell the truth. There is no moving forward on a path of reconciliation and peace if we are not having honest conversations about what our community members are experiencing. And until election season, the city was not willing to have those honest conversations. Right? The second thing that we need is transparency and accountability, and there are a very complicated web of laws at the state and local level that prevent transparency. I'm proud to have co-sponsored SB 1421, which is the Right to Know bill, which will now open up police officers' records in confirmed instances of excessive force or sexual misconduct. The third thing we need to do is stop using police officers to be the answer to every single social ill we have. If it doesn't require a badge and a gun, we shouldn't send a badge and a gun. We can hire and train Oakland community members in restorative justice, in de-escalation, in mental health crises, and send them instead. And we need a zero tolerance policy. If you abuse our community members, you will be held accountable.
Let's tell us more about the restorative justice piece.
Right, so I dream, and it won't happen in my lifetime, I'm clear, but I'm working every single day, as many of you know, to get there, where we have a society that is not over-incarcerating and over-policing its way to public safety, because if that was the answer, we would be the safest country in the world, because we do that more than anybody else in most countries combined. So I am a big proponent of restorative justice. I want to highlight Malachi Scott from Our Joy, who I am in deep relationship with, and who is actually trying to see how we use restorative justice models before an incident happens and not just afterwards.
Thank you. You know what, I'm going to ask a favor of the audience. We probably can move faster, and I think it'll be easier on all of you if we hold off on applause and let everybody go through the questions. So we want to get to as many of the questions as we can, and I'd like to move quickly enough that we can get to some of the questions that you have given us. Marchon Tatmon, what would you do to improve community relationships with the police?
In order to improve community relationships with the police, we need to retrain our police in how to de-escalate. We need to teach them more community policing tactics. We also need to create a cadet program in which you follow the youngsters through elementary on up through high school into the academy. You want to increase the number of officers in your city that is from your city. The percentage of officers who police this community is not that many who's a native of Oakland. That create prejudice, that create fear, that create the unknownness what this person who don't share similarities with you might do. And that's a lot of the problems behind some of the issues we've been having with the police department. So we must train, we must retrain, and we must hold them accountable. And we must change the culture of the police so they can value community and don't value authority.
And what about restorative justice? What role might that play?
As a person growing up in Oakland, a youngster myself, restorative justice programs is what kept me out of trouble. We need to fund these programs and utilize the services instead of going through the criminal justice center. We need to have alternatives of how to rehabilitate people in this community. Restorative justice is that, where you focus on rehabilitation through program, opportunity, the knowingness of being able to do something different in life so you won't have to stick to some of the stuff that's so negative out there in the society.
Thank you, Marchon. Let's pass the mic down to Mayor Schaaf to start with this next question. We're going to move through with no follow-up on this one, and that is this. The East Bay has changed drastically because of the growth of the tech sector in the city. What should the city be doing to attract new companies to Oakland and to reduce the negative effects?
I talk a lot about TechEquity, and that's the idea that the tech sector has a responsibility to be not just diverse, but inclusive, and it is failing in that. We in Oakland have really made a value statement that we want to create a different type of tech ecosystem with mission-driven companies that take their responsibilities seriously, that are investing in a new generation of a diverse workforce. We also cannot give away tax dollars. When Uber asked me to give them a tax break, I said no. When I was asked to provide incentives to try and attract an Amazon headquarters, I said no. We don't need to sell ourselves short. We have to ensure that tech companies are also helping to fund workforce housing. I called out Cupertino last week for approving the Apple headquarters without building any housing for workers. We know that there are great leaders with the TechEquity Collaborative that believe in this mission-driven idea, and that together we can change the face of tech, and that's the kind of companies that we're going to have here in Oakland.
Thank you, Mayor. And moving to Kat Brooks. Kat, what would you do to, or what should the city be doing, what would you do to attract new companies and to reduce the negative effects?
The city should be working in partnership with community. The city should be having active conversations with community about the kinds of companies we want here. That's part of why there was so much community backlash against Uber and some of the other things, is we don't feel like we have a voice in the kind of businesses that are coming to the town. And we need to ensure that those businesses have town values, diversity, paying living wage jobs, right to unionize, the things that we care about. We need to ensure that there are pathways into living wage jobs in these companies, particularly pathways for our young Black and brown folks, and particularly our folks in deep East Oakland. We need to make sure that they pay their fair share. We talked earlier about a gross sales receipt tax. What should tech companies be paying to be here? And it's not just tech, it's all industries. Thank you.
Marchon Tatmon. What should the city be doing to attract new companies and to reduce the negative effects that they cause?
We need to show new companies that Oakland has a vision, that Oakland is powerful, that Oakland is the next thing going in the state of California, not only in California, but the world. We need to lean on technology, but make sure we bring the right companies, as Kat alluded to Oakland, that value Oakland, that care about the citizens of Oakland, and that's going to pay a wage where people can survive in the city that they was born and raised in. We need to make sure that we have a desirability of every tech company, and we need to negotiate. Sometimes we might have to offer a tax incentive if we're competing against San Francisco. Sometimes we might have to offer tax breaks and employee incentives if we're trying to relocate businesses from San Jose. We need to make sure Oakland is on the mecca on 21st century technology, and we need to focus on making sure Oakland is the best when it comes to everything we can offer.
And can you hand the mic, Mr. Tatmon, to Pamela Price, who we also ask, what would you do to attract new tech companies, and what would you do to reduce the negative effects that they bring?
So the first thing I would do is clean up our streets. Downtown is not in the condition that I would want to see my city. I've never seen it look this bad, and I think that it should not look as dirty as it is. So I think if we're going to say to people that we have a world-class city, we need to take the steps to make sure that we clean it up so that it looks like that. I also understand that bringing tech companies may have a desirable effect, but I also understand that the tech industry has a lot of issues. And so my goal would be to have the tech companies that are interested in coming to Oakland to be in partnership both with the community and with the small businesses that exist here. I want tech companies that are willing to come here and invest in our community, that are going to make a commitment to our community. Yes, Uber came and Uber left, and they made $1 million by flipping that building, and we did not reap the benefits of that. So we have to do better than that.
The next question. Kat Brooks is going to kick this one off. If you can pass the mic down. Illegal dumping. All right. See, Click, Fix, and 311 have led actually to a huge spike of people reporting problems. It's expensive to clean them up, but the streets are still problematic. As Pamela was just mentioning, can you suggest a new solution for this, or where more money could be found to pay for this cleaning up? And you have 1 minute.
As you can imagine, we get asked this question at every forum because it is really one of the most pressing issues of our city. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about it and wandering about it and writing about it in my notes to myself, and I'm afraid that I don't have a very complicated answer for you. Pick up the trash. When I went and door knocked in our mayor's neighborhood, there was not mattresses and piles of garbage and dead rats and needles that I had to climb over to walk door to door. So I don't understand why when I walk through my neighborhood in West Oakland, all of those things exist. If we can do it in the hills, we can do it in the flats, and we need a city administration that's going to direct it to get done.
Go ahead. Illegal dumping. What would you do?
We have to tackle it head on. We need to make sure people feel the consequences when they dump it illegally in this city. We need to make sure that not only do we have cameras, but we have license plate readers. We need to increase fines. We need to prosecute, and we need to hold people accountable who is abusers and constantly dump. We need to make dumping more affordable. We need to become and have a better relationship with waste management where we can provide a subsidy to lower the cost of dumping so people can dump legally. We need to clean up every neighborhood. I spoke with a City of Oakland maintenance worker a few weeks ago, and he told me that they don't like cleaning the encampments because all the needles his trucks is filled with. We need to make sure that when we clean these streets, we care about the people who's actually cleaning them and understand their issues so that you can understand why some of them feel the way they feel about certain areas.
Pamela Price, what would you do about illegal dumping?
I would engage the neighborhood associations that are actively monitoring the situation, have been complaining about the situation, highlighting it, so that the city becomes a partner with our community, so that we start to clean up and monitor and maintain. And I don't mean by surveillance, because I'm not a fan of surveillance, and I'm certainly not a fan of over-criminalizing, because I understand that people, everyday people, sometimes dump, and we cannot assume that everyone who's dumping is from outside of Oakland. We do need to reduce the fees and the costs that are charged through waste management. We do need to have an understanding within ourselves as a community that it does matter how our streets look. It does matter where you dump your trash and your waste, and that we do have a zero waste goal that we are supposed to be trying to reach. And so I want to invest in our public works department and support our public works workers and put people to work using our dollars and allocating our budget dollars and prioritizing cleaning up our streets.
And if you can hand the mayor the microphone, Mayor Libby Schaaf.
It's not true that we are not putting nearly all of our picking up resources in the most impacted areas of this city. The more important piece is we have got to change behavior. It is not acceptable to dump your trash anywhere in the public. And we have a broken service system. We just did something. In fact, the last one is coming up this weekend. We held 2 bulky block parties. Even though you can order bulky waste pickup in front of your house once a year for free, we said, come down to this centralized location and you can drop up whatever you want for free. We are going to have more than 1,000 Oaklanders avail themselves of this. This is evidence that the service model for bulky waste is broken. It's mysterious, it's expensive, it is time-consuming, it is broken. Fixing that is one of the most important things we can do. The second most important thing we can do is work with the young people. The power of young people to change behavior and to educate everyone about the right behavior is incredible.
Thank you very much. To begin with this next question, we go back to Mr. Tatmon. And the question is, do you support building more dense housing in high opportunity neighborhoods like Rockridge, as opposed to just building them downtown? In other words, multi-unit dense housing.
This is something I studied in my master's program and I'm working on in my doctorate program right now. In order to address homelessness, we do need to build more dense housing. We do need to update zoning laws so we can build higher as well. But not only build dense housing in Rockridge, but we need that housing in East Oakland as well. We need it in West Oakland. We need it in North Oakland. We need it in the areas where we're seeing dramatic numbers in homelessness. But if we're building dense housing, we need to make sure whatever we build is affordable. People are struggling right now. I see it every day as a housing specialist who house the homeless. We need to prevent homelessness by getting the rents down. Dense housing is a great tool to utilize, but it could only work if it's the right cost.
Pamela Price, do you support building more dense housing in higher income areas like Rockridge?
I support it to a point because I understand that we cannot build our way out of this crisis. We know, and so I think of it in the context of the immediate short term and the long term. Long term, yes, we need inclusionary zoning. We need to change the way that we actually zone our areas. We need to use public lands for public good. I support the community-wide network plan for creating affordable and low-income housing on all public lands. I believe that we have to unlock vacant parcels throughout the city of Oakland, both where we have, different areas where we have not built dense housing, as well as other areas where we have the opportunity to build dense housing. I don't think that we should target particular areas and limit ourselves. We cannot in this moment. We have to use all of our resources.
Mayor Libby Schaaf.
I absolutely support densifying the city of Oakland. I support it around our transit-rich areas, but I also support it in our neighborhoods of opportunity. A great book this year, if people haven't read it, The Color of Law, really talks about why we have to put renters and lower income families into these neighborhoods to reverse the impacts of redlining and racial exclusionary covenants that legacy is even in Oakland. And it is simple to densify by allowing by right duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes in single-family neighborhoods. It is easy to continue to liberalize the use of secondary units. These are important and easy changes that we have to make, and obviously Rockridge is an obvious place to start because of its proximity to BART. I have supported all the state legislation that has attempted to push these types of progressive policies through. I will continue to do so.
Thank you, Mayor. On to Kat Brooks. Kat Brooks, are you in favor of building more dense housing in high opportunity neighborhoods?
An article recently came out talking about the resegregation of the Bay Area. And I have to say that as a black woman, I don't know that I believe that the Bay Area or America was ever fully desegregated. But what I can tell you is that one of the things that we are struggling with in Oakland, one of the things that is sucking our character and our brand and our vibrance out of us is this divide. Our divide across race, our divide across class, our divide across gender and ideology. That's not the Oakland brand. We need to build one Oakland. And so yes, a part of that is we need all income level housing in all of the neighborhoods in Oakland. I think that part of the question that they sent to us said that some people might push back because they want to preserve the character of their neighborhood. I submit to you that the character of Oakland is about inclusion and diversity and togetherness.
Thank you very much. Let's pass the mic back to Pamela Price, and we go now to a question from the audience. What I'd like to do with these questions, just because I want to get in a few of them before we get to our closing statements, is I'd like to see if we can give 30-second answers. I'm going to try to tighten the question. And this first one is, in 30 seconds, can you tell us what's your position on expanding rent control and Prop 10?
I support Prop 10, and I support rent control, and I'm definitely in favor of, if Prop 10 does not pass, we are going to have an alternative. I also support split tax reform, reforming Prop 13 in 2020.
Okay, let's give the mic to Mayor Libby Schaaf.
I support the repeal of Costa-Hawkins. I do believe that we have to have a rolling date for rent stabilization, as well as applying it to single-family homes. I personally had my rent jacked up 30% during my son's kindergarten year when I was a renter of a single-family home in Oakland. I also support the split roll tax that's going to be coming to us in 2 years. But what I am really passionate about, and I have spent actually a good part of my day today fighting for, is regionalized policies for the whole Bay Area. Just cause eviction for all of the Bay Area, anti-rent gouging restrictions for all of the Bay Area. That is the only way that Oakland is going to be able to get out of this crisis.
Thank you very much. On to Kat Brooks.
I believe I answered this earlier. The rent is too high, yes on Prop 10. My campaign has been, I think we're the only campaign that have actively taken on this issue, and as we're knocking on doors, we're not only asking voters for their first place vote, we're educating voters on Proposition 10, what Costa-Hawkins is, and saying that we need one of the most progressive rent control policies in the state, and Oakland should be the city that leads the state. I also support something that San Francisco did around Measure F. Every single person that is facing eviction should have a city paid for attorney, because 80% of landlords do and 20% of tenants do.
Yes, on Prop 10. It's that simple. We need to bring this back to a local level so we can have control over policies that hurt our residents in the city. This shouldn't be a situation where the state determines how Oakland livelihood for the citizens are. We need to make sure that Prop 10 should never take place again. Don't rewrite this law. Don't try to switch up the words. We need to make sure that we take it off the books and care about the people in this city so we can get the rents down. Yes on Prop 10.
Let's pass the mic down. Or Pamela, I've lost track here. Have you had a chance to answer this? I apologize.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then let's pass the mic down to Libby Schaaf. And let me ask you, Mayor, environmental hazards like air pollution and lead contamination in the soil are a real problem in Oakland, but particularly in the communities where there are people of color. What would you do? What can you do if you're reelected to fix some of that?
One is really support the community-led process that has started in West Oakland to design the mitigations to address the air pollution. As Oakland is named, the third greenest city in America, as we continue to renew our already aggressive climate action plan, we have got to work on the equity piece of environmentalism. And that means we know that the people who will be hurt first and worst by pollution, by sea level rise, are our most vulnerable. We have to address health as we address greenhouse gas emissions.
Kat Brooks.
I live in West Oakland and have had to hospitalize my daughter at least 4 separate occasions because of asthma that she didn't have until we moved there. I myself suffer from this thing called the West Oakland cough. One of the things that I would do as mayor is get our seat back on the Regional Bay Area Air Control Board that our mayor gave away because she was angry at Councilmember Kaplan. The second thing I would do would work with our truckers so that we can help them make their trucks green, as they can't afford to do these things by themselves. I will continue to say no today, no tomorrow, and no forever to coal in Oakland. And we certainly will not see businesses like crematoriums opening up in East Oakland, which is suffering from some of our worst air quality issues.
Marchon Tatmon.
We need air sensor meters, and we need to put them in the areas where there's known pollution. East Oakland, West Oakland, asthma rates is through the roof. We need to make sure we lean on green technology. We need to utilize electrical buses. We need to transform our transportation so it can reach every part of the city so we won't have to rely on the car. Carbon dioxide. We need to make sure the moratorium by the airport don't get built and go into business to pollute our neighborhood even more.
Pamela Price.
As mayor, I also would restore a representative from Oakland on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. We are losing millions of dollars by not having our representative there. And so that's number one. Number two, I will work with the No Coal in Oakland community to continue our efforts to stop the development of Mr. Tagami's pet project. I would work with the Port of Oakland to begin to continue to modernize the facilities there, and to ensure that our air is as clean as we can get it as we move forward towards our environmental goals.
If you could pass the mic down to Kat Brooks. Kat Brooks, I know this is a tough one here with 30 seconds, but give it your best shot. Do you have a plan for dealing with underfunded or unfunded pension liabilities?
So this is something we've been thinking about a lot on our campaign, and this is a very serious problem for our city. If we do not deal with this issue right now, this could literally bankrupt our city. We need to be putting away a set amount. I believe the recommended amount is $40 million every budget cycle to be able to ensure that the people that give their lives and their time and their talent to our city have the pensions that they were promised during their life's work. So I'm committed to actually putting aside the money, which our city has not done, to ensure our workers can live with dignity and respect once they retire.
Good job, 30 seconds, whoa. Marchon Tatmon.
My dad is a City of Oakland employee, and he's been so for over 43 years. Actually, 2 years ago, Mayor Schaaf honored him for his service with the city. We need to make sure that we do put away for the pension, but we also need economic development so we can have the funds to put away and make sure that we doing justice to the City of Oakland workers. We need to go ahead and move forward with my Hagenberger Tourist Hub, in which private citizens can invest in this parcel and create a profit in dividends and create an inheritance. We also need to make sure this revenue can be used so we can have more money to put away for the pension.
Pamela Price.
Yes, the unfunded liabilities is a serious problem. As a mayor, I would devise an immediate plan to start paying it down, because that's the problem, is that we're not paying it down. In any amount of extra revenue that we can find within the budget needs to go. I would treat it as a credit card. Those of us who have credit know that sometimes your credit card is so high if you don't pay it, and that is what has happened. So we have to begin paying it. Even a little bit at a time will help us get out of this mess.
Actually, the required amount just for medical benefits for retirees is more like $72 million a year. We have been short about $35 million a year. This is something we cannot do tomorrow. We have to work particularly in partnership with our labor leaders to have a long-term strategy. I wrote the city's rainy day fund. We are, for the first time ever in the city's history, starting to put money aside to reduce those unfunded liabilities. For the first time, to put money aside so we don't have to lay off workers the next time we hit a recession. That is what we have to do.
I want to make sure we are at the time now where we really need to begin to have the candidates, allow the candidates to make their final statements. You will each have 2 minutes for that. And because, let's see, we started, yeah, let's start with Pamela Price this time, if you could.
Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. As I indicated in my opening, Oakland is at a crossroads. This is a time of opportunity, a time of challenge. The mayor has tremendous influence, and if you want to see change in Oakland, if you want to live in a city without homelessness, then you need to vote for a change. If you want to live in a city with clean, safe neighborhoods, then you need to vote for a change. We can, in fact, reduce the racial and economic inequalities that have taken root. Development has come, but we cannot afford to have development that is not balanced, that does not leave behind and destroy the fabric of this community, and that's what's happening. When I was compelled to run for this seat, it was because someone said to me, the Oakland that we knew will not be here in 2 years, that we will not survive another 2 years under Mayor Libby Schaaf. And so it is critical that we look at that with clear lens, that we look at the problem that we have, the humanitarian crisis. Homelessness has increased by 39% in just 2 years. We cannot continue to go along the same road that we're going, do the same thing that we've been doing, which is basically shuffling people around the city, sending our police out to move them from one place to another, and acting as if somehow that is an appropriate remedy for the problems that we face. We've got to have mental health services. We've got to have wraparound services. We have got to treat people like human beings in this city. We got to love our neighbors like we love ourselves. That's the call of this election, and that's the challenge to each of you, that we need to rise above homelessness and bring affordable housing, equity, and results to Oakland. Thank you for coming.
And let's move. Final statement now from the incumbent.
When I was elected mayor 4 years ago, Oakland was ranked as the second most violent city in America, and there was not a single construction crane in this city. These problems are complex, and we are making progress. We have a lot more to do. We don't want to go back to those days. We want to go forward to where we are actually building the affordable housing that can make this a Bay Area for everyone. We want to go forward to a time where every child has free, quality preschool and knows from the moment that they are born that college is their birthright, and that is what we are getting done. No one gets anything done alone. And Oakland's problems are not unique to Oakland. They need regional solutions and regional and statewide resources. I have brought in millions of dollars of private and state funding to address particularly homelessness and education. There is a reason that I am endorsed by every regional leader, every one of our state representatives, and that is because I have worked with them to bring things back for Oakland. This city has not had stable leadership for a long time. As a lifelong Oaklander, as someone who has dedicated nearly 20 years to local government, I am ready to continue the work that I have started and deliver a thriving, equitable city that I know is my hometown and our city, our values. I, again, will never back down for Oakland. Thank you.
Oakland is supposed to be the most progressive city in the country. But here in Oakland, just like in America, democracy is broken. And we cannot fix it while we sit idly by and thousands sleep in our streets. We cannot fix it when our children are being hospitalized for asthma or lead poisoning. We cannot fix it with lifelong Oaklanders being pushed out of their city. We cannot fix it as these divides across race and class continue to grow. And we cannot fix it with a city administration and a city government that disrespects, disregards, and all but ignores the voices of our most impacted Oakland community members. But we can fix it in Oakland. We can elect leadership that is rooted in justice, humanity, and equity. Leadership that is going to put our most impacted, our most marginalized people at the forefront of the conversations, not because we ignore everybody else, but because we know when we focus here, everybody rises. I did not seek out elected office. I was an organizer and happy being so. But we are in critical and crucial times, and so when hundreds of Oaklanders asked me to run, I stepped up and I said yes. Yes, we do need to go forward. We need to go forward with 21st century common sense solutions that respond to the crisis that we're in at scale, and do so with Oakland values. There's a reason why I am endorsed by almost every single progressive organization inside the city of Oakland, not around the state. And that includes ACE Action, Oakland Rising Action, the Wellstone Democratic Renewal Club, the California Nurses Association, notables like Danny Glover, W. Kamau Bell, people that care about our city and our town. I'm asking for your #1 vote on November 6th. We can turn this thing around. We just have to get off the rat wheel of doing the same old thing, expecting different results, and do it a new way, a town way. Thank you.
Just a little kid out of East Oakland who had a dream. Since the age of 16, I knew what was my destiny and I knew what was my calling. And what helped me solidify that was a trip I took in high school called Sojourn to the Past. This trip, a little kid out of Oakland flew into Washington, D.C., and went to the Lincoln Memorial and did the Martin Luther King I Had a Dream speech. From there, we flew into Atlanta and busted all the way through the South, hitting historical places like Selma, Alabama, Bloody Sunday, Money, Mississippi, Emmett Till. Places that had a significant founding in a city, in a state, and in a country that was in shambles. This was the civil rights trip I took that made me realize the importance of getting involved politically in my neighborhood. Growing up on these streets, friends being gunned down. In 2017, the last 5 people who got killed in the city I personally knew. So as long as we have a name attached to any of these homicides, one homicide is a problem for me. I went to school to better teach myself on how to be an expert in policy, an expert in administration, so I can have an expert panel along with my leadership leading this city into the 21st century of greatness. Oakland is my home, born and raised. Rents doubled in the past 4 years. Homelessness doubled in the past 4 years. Everything doubled in the past 4 years besides wages. People are out there struggling to make a difference. People love this city, but we need inclusion in this city. We need to embrace culture. We need to embrace youthfulness, and we need to embrace great ideas. That's why at 33, I'm running for mayor so I can add youthfulness and great ideas to make Oakland a better place. Vote Marchon, Mayor of Oakland, November 6, 2018.
I want to thank the 4 candidates for their thought and their hard work. And I want to thank all of you for coming and for listening and taking the time to learn and educate yourselves. I know you are all voters, but make sure you get everybody you know to get out there and vote, because it sure makes a difference. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, Just a quick closing words. I'm Catherine Bracey, the founder of TechEquity. I would like to thank First Presbyterian for hosting us, especially Di Pagel, who did all the organizing here, and the church food ministry, who will be serving. Spoiler alert, there's food next door if you want to stick around. I also want to thank the volunteers led by Sarah Kidder of Sarah Kidder Designs and all the ushers. Thanks to Devon for live streaming. Thanks to any vendors, Firebrand Bakery, and Beauty's Bagels for the food donations. And please come and share that food with us in the reception hall right now. Thank you.